Okay, I'm making this as a part 2 sort of supplement for the Pussy Kitty hat for some people that were having trouble. I originally made that video just really quick, just to show the pattern, but I know there's some people that wanted to make it that have less experience, maybe just learning to crochet or haven't done it in a while, and particularly people were confused about how to get the ribbing effect. I'm pretty sure it's just because you're overthinking it. It's much more simple than it seems. It maybe looks more complicated than it is. So I'm just going to show the stitches really quick. I'm not going to make the whole hat. Just slower maybe so you can see what's happening. But I'm working with 2 strands, mainly because it makes it bulkier, it makes it go faster. It should be a quick hat. I mean, I think maybe an hour and a half if you were like at a good clip. Maybe a couple hours if you're working real leisurely. I always get interrupted, so I never get to make anything all the way through, all my kids. But let's start. So for the beginning, I said to use the 8mm hook, just so that it doesn't get real tight at the bottom. Sometimes if you use the same size hook as the rest of it, when you're doing something, I mean, straight like that, it'll get a little tight. You don't have to. If you only have a 6mm hook, use a 6mm and just maybe chain it loosely. Don't make a tight chain. I just like to use the bigger hook. Just simple. So if I were really going to make this hat, again, I would leave myself a long tail at the beginning to sew up the side, which is the smart thing to do. Probably at least 2 to 3 times the length that the total hat's going to be. So if you think the hat's going to be between 8 and 9 inches, leave yourself at least 16, maybe 20 inches of tail here to start, just so you have it. I'll just do that for illustration purposes. But we're just going to get the yarn on the hook, and I'll just show you what I do in slow motion, I guess. Everyone does this a little differently. I just sort of wrap it around and pull it on. Kind of just like slip knotting on there. There's plenty of videos about how to do this if you want to see that. And then I've got my 2 strands. I've got it on the hook, on the 8, and for that first row, I said about 22 inches, whatever the circumference of your head is how long you're going to want to make it. Or you can kind of guesstimate anything between 21, 23 is probably fine. So I'm just going to chain. So when you chain, you've got it on the wrap around the hook, and you just pull it through your loop. That's chain 1. Do the same thing again. Chain 2. Now if you didn't have a bigger hook and wanted to you could just do this chain a little, leave yourself a little bit of slack. I just think it's easier to start with a bigger hook. So we're going to just keep chaining, and you want to chain to an even number, whatever even number is closest to the size you want. I'm just going to chain about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, pull myself some extra. It's hard to go slow actually. 9, 10, 11. I'm just going to do 12 just for demonstration purposes, but if I was making the hat, I would make this to the whole 22 inches. So I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to switch, if I'm making the hat, to the smaller hook that I want to make the hat with, the 6. Like I said, you could just use this 6 for the whole thing. You could try to do a looser chain or not worry about it, but it might be just a tiny bit tight at the bottom. Not the end of the world. So I've got my chain to the full length that I want. If I was making the hat, it would be longer. And then I'm going to chain 3 with this smaller hook, which is going to count as my first crochet, because we're going to double crochet for the row 1 in this whole chain. Alright, so I just chained 3, and that's going to count as my first stitch. And now I'm going to double crochet in the next chain here. So double crochet, go under, go through, grab your yarn, pull it through, go under. It is hard to go slow. Pull through 2, yarn under, pull through the last 2. So there's your chain 3, which counts as your first stitch and your first double crochet. So you're just going to double crochet the whole length into the chain. Yarn over, you go through this, see there's like 2 holes, you go through this, the one side of the chain. Yarn over, just double crochets. Let me go a little bit. Double crochet this whole thing. And again, if you're making the real hat, this would be the full 22-ish inches, whatever you've determined how big you want it to be. Smaller for a kid, bigger for someone with a big head, you know. Okay. So, and you probably want to check your stitch count a lot if you're not real experienced, just to make sure you didn't miss. Here's my chain 3, that's my first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 here. Okay. So I'm going to pretend that this is the full length of the hat. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our work over, other side, and to get the ribbing, we need to get it to kind of go in and out. So in order to do that, we're going to go around, instead of going through the top of this chain hole like you would normally do here, here, you know, if we were going to do another row of double crochets, you would chain 3 and then you'd go in the next hole over, like if you were just making something. But in this case, we're not going to chain. We're going to double crochet right around this whole stitch. And we're going to go, so we're going to yarn over, and we're going to come from this side and go right around the whole chunky chunk of double crochet there. Double crochet, pull through, 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. Okay, so we've crocheted around this whole stitch, but we need to go have the stitch be on top and then on the bottom in the next. So in order to get to on the bottom, you're going to double crochet from if you're holding it like this, it would be under. I usually crochet up, so that's why I think of it as behind, however you hold it. So yarn over, and you're going to go come up from the back or from the bottom, however you're holding it, and do the double crochet that way. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. So now we have a double crochet that goes from the front, one from the back, or one from the top, one from the bottom, however you want to think about it. You just got to alternate back and forth. So we're going to yarn over, and I'm going to come from this side. You're just alternating which side you're coming from to do the double crochet, but all you're doing is a double crochet around the whole stitch. So I just went on this side, so I'm going to go on whatever the other side is. I'm going to come up from behind. Okay, and now I'm going to come from this side around the whole thing. And just keep track as you're going that you didn't do 2 the same side. If you do it right away, just pull it out and fix it. I mean, no big deal. But if you've done the whole thing, you didn't realize it until the end. It's a pain. But you'll see it. So this is row 2. So the row 2 is we're going to do the first up and over. You can kind of see it happening. Right? So I just went from now I'm going to go from the top again. Or from the front, however you want to think about it. Just I've got a tangle. Okay. Alright, I'm just going to finish these so I can show you. So you'd be doing this the whole 20 some inches, whatever. Okay. In the front. My youngest is screaming in the background, you might be able to hear her. Mad about something. Okay. Front and behind. From the front. Okay, and then you're going to be at your chain 3, which counts as a stitch. So you're going to go, and it should be, if you have an even number, you should be doing the opposite of what you just did at the beginning. So in this case, coming from behind. Just makes it look a little better when you sew up the side if you haven't. Alright, so that's my first row to create that sort of ribbing effect. You're just sort of like getting the bottom to be chunky in a similar way. Just so the next row we're going to do just straight double crochet in the chain. So we're going to chain 3, which just counts as our first double crochet. I'm going to flip it over, and just remember this chain 3 is your first double crochet, so don't go in this hole right next to the chain. You got to go in the next hole. You just want to always have the same number of stitches, and this double crochet counts it. So if you have, I have it 12, I've got 12 going one way and 12 going the back. So I'm just going to double crochet, yarn over in the chain, not doing, don't worry about the wrapping again. So row 3, you're just going in the chain at the top, just the chain. We'll do, I'm going to have the same number always stitches. So I'll have 12. My husband's being loud with our youngest in the background. Okay. Again, this is just a demo. Watch the other video for the whole shebang. You can come back to this. And it gets a little tricky when you get to this part. When you get to the end, because it can, you gotta make sure you go into the last. It's a little twisted. You just want to make sure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Of course, and I've got one more to go in. You just gotta find it. It's here. It's just pulled over. Just do whatever you gotta do to get in there. Just find that end of the chain and crochet through it. It's there. It might be just folded over a little bit. So now that's my row 3. I just double crocheted the whole way. Now we're going to do the same thing we did when we went in the stitches. So we're going to just flip it over, and we're going to get the ribbing effect again. So we're going to go the same way, in the same direction that we started on the. So I just like to start doing it on top or in front, however you want to think about it. I just did a double crochet around that whole double crochet that I just did. So you have a row of double crochets, and then you crochet around those double crochets, and then you do another row of double crochets back, and you crochet around that row of double crochets. So there's 4 rows total. It kind of looks like 2. So I'm going to do this next one. Promise it's not that complicated, it just seems complicated, right? So I'm going to do from the front, and you will see this, you should start to see after you do a few, how it starts to come together. I'm going to come from behind, do a double crochet, I'm going to go from the front, and again just eyeball what you're doing. This is the most complicated part of the whole thing. The rest is just half doubles, wham bam, you'll be done in no time. Promise. It is really simple. Okay, so you can start to see it's got that kind of ribbing effect. So I'm going to go in front. Just make sure you don't do 2 on top on the row or 2 on the bottom in a row. That'll just mess it up. Okay? This This one goes on top. It's pretty easy. You can tell right away if you messed up. It becomes obvious. From under. This is going to be the most boring video for anybody that... Okay. And again, you're going to get to that chain 3 is going to be your last stitch. And it should be the opposite of what you started with. You should be going under if you went over, vice versa. Okay, but you got to go around it. Okay, so this is it. If this is the whole length, we're doing the whole hat, it would be the longest. This is the bottom part. You're done. You could go wild and do another row and make the ribbing part real thick. And now you're done with the ribbing part of it. All you need to do is just do the rest of the body of it. I like the half double. I feel like it goes really quickly. You can do a single, or you could keep doing, just go back and forth and do a double crochet if you like that better. Whatever you prefer. But I like the half double. It goes quickly. So to do the half double rows, you're going to chain 2, because that's going to count as your first half double. Turn your work. And remember, this half double counts as the crochet for this first hole, so don't go in there. But the half double is yarn over, go through the chain, and you pull through all 3. I lost a strand there. Okay. Yarn over, go through the chain, pull through, go through all 3. Yarn over, go through the chain, pull through, yarn over, go through all 3. Yarn over, go through, pull through, all 3. You just need to make sure that you keep having the same number of stitches. Like in the full hat, I think last one I had like 52 stitches. You just always want the same number. Just make sure you didn't add a stitch or drop a stitch. And it gets a little bit tricky. I guess a tiny bit tricky when you always get to the ends, just because you have to make sure, especially when this first one, that the double crochet is always folded over a little bit from the going around the stitch. Just make sure you get through that. And I should have 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. And again, chain 2, turn your work. Don't go in that first one, because this is the double crochet for that, or the half double I should say. Yarn over, go through the whole chain. We're done with the ribbing. You could have done another row of that ribbing if you wanted. Have 3 rows of it if you like a chunkier looking bottom, but or not. Pull through, go through all 3, yarn over. I'm going to do these quickly. You probably got the gist of this by now. Half doubles are super fast. Yarn over, go through. At least I think they are. I mean, this part of the hat, you will finish this before you know it. Okay, and the only little snag part here is that the that chain 2 counts, so you need to go on the top of that chain 2, which can be a little tricky. Depending on what kind of yarn you're using, it can be harder. Sometimes it doesn't want to be found, like right now. But this should be the only thing that gives you some annoyance is getting through that top chain. Or getting through that chain 2. Just make sure you have the right number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Perfect. So chain 2. Don't go in that first one. I'm going to do one more row here. Half doubles. Half double. Half doubling it. And again, when you get to the end of the row, just make sure that you go through the top of your chain 2, which can be a little bit tight, but just get in there. You go through both. This yarn is being tricky. Okay. There. So you're just going to keep going half doubles up until you get to the right leg. Height, I should say. About, I say anywhere between 8 and 9. I like 8 1/4, 8 1/2, perfect. And then you do the other steps that you can see in this other video. And I guess I should say, in this case, I left the tail just to show you what that would be like. So you could use this to sew up the side. And I didn't talk about before, if you've never done this before, that how you get rid of tails are you use these big, I don't know, tapestry needles. It's like a blunt needle that you don't want a sharp pointer is going to snag on your yarn. And you're just, what you would do to weave a tail is you just stick it on your yarn and then you want to inconspicuously weave it through your project just to hide it. Anyway, I hope this helps people understand how to do that ribbing as a little supplement to my other video. Good luck. Thanks for watching.